Right, now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going, close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Hello, folks, and welcome back to TAB's Pick and Go Rugby podcast. My name is Karl Paul, joined in studio yet again by my good mate Paul Mawate. Paul, how's the week been, mate?
Punting wise, terrible, but week one's done, and we've seen a wee bit of form from a number of teams. I guess a few surprises, a few disappointments, a few.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, but so glad that the tournament's underway.
Yep, I am too. And we have another very special guest today, Paul. Our guest today, a North Harbour great, played 50 games for the province, along with stints at Otago and Auckland.
You always get Otago in there, don't you?
Love Otago, you know that.
Right.
He played 17 matches for New Zealand, including 11 tests, was involved in New Zealand's 145-17 annihilation of Japan at the 95 World Cup. We'll get to that very soon. Spent some time on the park in the final of that tournament, if I'm not mistaken. It is, of course, All Black number 922. I hope I've got that right. Ant Strachan. Ant, how are you, mate?
Hey, gents. Good to see you both.
Did I get those stats right, mate?
Oh, yeah, pretty close, mate. Well, actually, I forget about those things. I'm getting too old, mate, to remember back to those days. But I do remember the 147-pointer against Japan. Mark Ellis got most of the tries and wouldn't share anything with us.
It's actually a perfect segue because I've got here. I wanted to ask you about that before we get into the episode proper. I watched the highlights this morning of that game. 21 tries by New Zealand, 2 from Japan. So 23. That's one try every 3.5 minutes. What is that like to play in a game like that? I'd like to think most people have played in some sort of huge victory if they've spent enough time in sports. But what's that like to play in?
Yeah, it's always tough, actually. We were extremely nervous because it was the first opportunity for us to play in the tournament, and we were kind of sitting in that kind of Wednesday group. But once the game started flowing and, we just needed to just work in 10-minute blocks, stay on task. It didn't matter what the score was to us. We just had to keep playing well. But it's really interesting. There is some footage. And Mark Ellis, a good mate of mine, and, of course, he scores 5 tries. There's one time I give him the ball on the right edge, and he goes towards the try line. And I'm right inside him, screaming at him, saying, Macca, give me a ball. I wanted to score. And he turns around, and just behind the ball, he's doing the fingers as he's running along, dead set. You only just see it if you have a close look. So, yeah, he's got a lot to answer for, mate, I'm telling
Yeah, that's so good.
Sticking with that World Cup, did you get food poisoning?
Yeah, we did. It was pretty ugly, actually. Although to Laurie Mains' credit, he told us all post-match, don't use it as an excuse. Just commend what the South Africans had done, get on with business, get home. And, of course, in time, it'll be released. And, of course, Laurie was the one that released that about maybe 6 months or 12 months later, whatever. But, yeah, no, we're pretty sick, mate. We didn't do hardly any preparation that week. I think we had like 20 minutes to half an hour prep for the World Cup final.
Wow, that's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Against a South African team who had a mad South African crowd behind them, with Nelson Mandela there. There were a lot of things working against the All Blacks that day.
Yeah, good effort to get to extra time. Was I right in saying you got on the field with blood bin replacement? Was it?
Yeah, it was Bash actually got a bit of a cut across his eye. So, mate, honestly, I was pretty crook all week, both ends too, unfortunately. And I hardly remember getting on the paddock. But it was just one of those things. We'd eaten with the general population all week in our hotel, but Laurie decided on the Wednesday morning after training that we'd have our own room. And it was that day when we were just only us in the room. We got captured, obviously, and whatever we ate that day, we all got horrendously sick, and only 2 guys didn't, and the other guys that didn't come to lunch that day. So, yeah, it was definitely something in the food.
Oh, I'm waiting for an ESPN 30 for 30 to come out.
But was Jonah one of them because he went to McDonald's? Have I heard that story before?
Yeah, no, I have actually. The only 2 that didn't get sick was Zinzi and Brooke and Glenn Osborne. because they had actually stayed. You know, he thought he was a goal kicker, the best one in the team, so he'd always stay back with the kicker. And Oz, I think he just had to stay back because he didn't want to be chased around by Eric Rush all the time, so he stayed away.
Oh, that's great. I'm going to dig out that footage of Macca giving you the bird, and that's great. Right, we'll keep things rolling. We're going to do an informal, today we've got a little informal introduction. We've got a little round table about surprises and disappointments over the weekend. We're going to look at the games ahead. Start one, bench one, cut one is back, Paul. I know you love that one. Controversy corner, and then some betting. Let's kick it off with the informal introduction to our guest. And if you were a piece of rugby equipment, which would you be and why?
Well, for fear of sounding arrogant, probably a mouth guard. And for two reasons. When the pressure comes on, you got to bite down on something. So that always helps. Generally, the old mouth guard gets ripped to pieces in the tough games. And also, probably it protects you against a physical challenge. And rugby is such a physical game nowadays. So, that mouth guard, that piece of equipment is vital, for rugby players from a young age all the way to the top.
Nice. It's well thought through, that one.
Yeah, I've never met a halfback who didn't have anything to say either. So
I'm not going to let you down, mate. Here's another one.
I'll go next, Paul. I've chosen headgear for myself. Looks good for the most part on most people. Does the job that does its job to the highest level, but doesn't actually do the job everyone thinks it does. Most people think a head cap or headgear is there to prevent concussion. It's not. It's mainly to prevent cuts. It's a little bit of.
I take umbrage at your statement that a headgear looks good. It does not look good. If you can't make headgear look good, then there's something wrong with you. If a headgear looked good, people would be wearing them to the clubs at 2:00 in the morning. They don't.
I've seen people wear headgear in the club.
Mate, that's an outstanding answer. Are you going to join the halfback club, mate? You're an honorary member. I'll tell you, that was outstanding.
Paul?
I'd be the bucket of water.
Here we go.
You're probably too young to remember, but the bucket of water and the sponge used to be the number one piece of medical equipment in a rugby game. And anytime anyone went down, the St. John's ambulance people would run on with a bucket of water, or the coach, if you weren't playing at a high grade, coach with a bucket of water and a sponge, come over, squeeze the water on your leg or your shoulder or whatever. Next thing you know, you're back up and going again. So, yeah, I'd be the bucket of water because I think I worked a wee bit of magic on the rugby field at a very, very low grade. Yeah.
For all the young players out there, it's like the ice spray now.
Oh, is that what they do?
It's the spray. Is it spray ice? You're right, mate. Get up and go. Anyway, good stuff. I like that. Straight into it. Round table. Asked you guys to do a little bit of homework. We'll start with your biggest surprise and biggest disappointment of the first round of the World Cup. We're going to start with the biggest surprise, and I'll throw to our guest. And what was your biggest surprise over the weekend?
Probably the English, to be honest, and their ability to adapt to losing one of their players with about 3 or 4 minutes on the clock. And I think it was just how clinically they stuck to a plan. And you do train to have 14, sometimes 13 players on the field. So it's always well prepped, but just the way they stuck to it for 80 minutes. I know it was a bit of a kick fest at times, but it takes a pretty impressive group. First game in, the Argentinians are not easy to play. They're physical and they can open you up at times. So that was probably the most impressive performance for me.
I'll jump in because I also had England and the way they adapted, or Argentina and the way they couldn't adapt to the change in the game. I, like you, and I'm really impressed with the way they obviously had their game plan change as soon as that red card was there. It was like, right, as soon as we cross that halfway line, put the ball through the post. Doesn't matter where we are, how we get it done. They had 3 drop goals and 6 penalties with 2 more long range missed for their 27 points. And I think they they applied that pressure to Argentina by just building those. I'd say the RG's at 3 points behind, 6, 9, probably even 12. They're thinking, well, we just got to score one try. We're back in this game. It'll be easy. And then once it gets out to 15, 18, it's like, oh shit, we've got to get 2 tries now, and it just becomes that much harder. And they were never in it. So, congrats! I can't believe I'm going to say this, but round of applause to England. It was boring as hell to watch, but
That'll be cut out of the podcast. Don't worry about it.
Oh, what was your biggest surprise?
Ben Donaldson. I thought I'd take a look at a player, and look, before the World Cup, I think he'd played 80, maybe 84 minutes worth of Test match rugby for the Wallabies. I loved. He runs great lines. He scored a double. A couple of clean breaks, and over 100 meters gained. So he had a very busy game, and I think he's sort of thrown up I guess a problem for Eddie Jones. Is he's put his hand up and said, "You probably want to pick me again," and I think he deserves to be selected again and given another go in pool play. So yeah, Ben Donaldson for me, just a bit of a surprise out of nowhere. And he's leading the top tournament try scorer with a few other players at the moment.
He is, yeah. Looked very good. Not sure about the haircut though.
Probably, maybe if he had a headgear on, he'd look a bit better.
He would. He would. I'll stick with you, Paul, for your biggest disappointment of the weekend.
Argentina, who just were unable to take advantage of being a man up for pretty much the whole game. And they should have been able to, with the physicality they play with, dominated at the set piece and just ground out a victory there. And they really didn't look in it, and they were lucky to pick up a try right on sort of full time to give the score a wee bit of respectability. So, yeah, I thought they were good. And they could still go deep in the competition. But that was a big disappointment for mine.
Yep. And your biggest disappointment?
Well, probably the All Blacks for mine, and it's not the All Blacks in terms of their overall performance. I thought the first half was really well scripted. They tried a few new things. We hadn't seen those against South Africa in the test we lost here in New Zealand. And things were actually building quite nicely, and the French are actually struggling. I think, Dupont was a bit off, and there were a few other players that weren't performing to their normal level. But the disappointment really was in the second half, when France changed the way they defended, and obviously when they had the ball, what they were doing with the ball, we just didn't adapt, and we became very pocketed, and we just couldn't get out of our half. And we're always looking to okay, well, what are you going to do next? What options do you have in your toolbox? And we probably just didn't see them. So that was a disappointment for me, because that's a big game. And, I guess they're going to make the quarterfinal later on down the track, and they may be faced with similar circumstances.
We're almost singing from the same song sheet here, Ant, which is either impressive or
disturbing,
boring for our listeners. But not New Zealand as such, but I went down the player route. I had Bodie Barrett. Wasn't the whole game. Like he started off well. He looked like he was sort of playing that primary playmaker role, kicking well, running well, distributing. But in the second half, along with the rest of the team, there was just, no leadership, no direction, aimless kicking. And for a guy that's played 112 tests, 150 Super Rugby games, 300 plus first class games, you need him to sort of step up and put a stamp on the game, and if we need to change tactics, be the guy that says, hey, look, this ain't working, let's do what we need to do to get the W. So don't get me wrong, love Bodie in the black jersey, but disappointed with the way in which he sort of handled that game. But yeah, they'll bounce back. Right. Paul, do you have the results page up there from last week? If not,
yeah.
Do you want to run us through a couple of the results? And if you've got anything you want to say as we go through these results, sing out, let it fly.
Well, all started on Saturday morning, our time, France 23, All Blacks 13. No.
Play on.
Italy 52, Namibia 8.
I didn't see any of that game, so I can't comment.
I tell you, the Italians will not be a pushover, and the All Blacks play them in their final pool match. Sorry. France play Italy in their final pool match, and depending on how the results go before that,
someone suggested to me last night.
would you put it past the French that they might? Well,
Yeah,
I'm not saying
that's exactly what was put to me last night. Would they throw that game, perhaps?
Hold and look, Italy have been very, very competitive in the Six Nations. So let's not even say France are going to throw it. Maybe France rest a few players and Italy turn up on the day. Look, there's a long way to go before then. But anyway, it's a possibility. The Irish, 82-8 over Romania. Very, very slick. Australia, 35-15 over Georgia. I thought the Wallabies were good. They look good against a Georgian team who they're no pushovers, to be fair.
Pattaya looked strong.
The Poms, as you say, no tries, but 27-10 over Argentina, with a man down for pretty much the whole match. So that was a huge team effort by those left on the field. By the way, and of course, remember before the game, they had two of their big boys out with suspension. So, yeah, the Poms, and on the easier side of the draw. So, Japan 42, Chile 12. Chile's first Rugby World Cup. So, well done to them.
I saw their first try, and it was I think they scored the first try of the match.
That was off each sort of
Japan
dribbled it through.
Clear it, and it went to ground, and then Old Mate came through with a little dribble like he was playing in the Football World Cup. Managed to get the bounce and score.
South Africa 18-3 over Scotland.
It was a bit of a very tight first half. Some good tries by South Africa, but Scotland were never really in it, were they?
Not really. No, I don't think. And then probably the match of the round: Wales 32, Fiji 26. The Fijians who lost the ball over the line a couple of times, and then that last pass doesn't go to hand. I backed Fiji. I put my hand up, so yeah, I had skin in the game, and they probably did enough to win. But just once again, finishing off those opportunities, it really does come down to that. You take them when they're there, and to be fair to the Welsh, they took all their opportunities. And they came out on top.
Did you watch that game, man?
Yeah, I actually commentated that game with Scotty Stevenson, and I mean, it was impressive, wasn't it? We were kind of looking for a game to free things up in the World Cup, I reckon, and it was a real contrast, wasn't it? I mean, this Fijian team certainly improved. Their set piece is way better than it has been. They're competitive in that aspect of the game, and we know how talented they are at sort of denting the line and really threatening defence. And, of course, they did open up Wales a few times. But it's funny because they did lose. And I thought the referee was ropey, Ben, at times. I thought he really was unjust in terms of could have probably binned a few more Welsh players. But, equally as good as the Fijians were on attack, this Welsh team, how well did they defend? I think it was like 250 tackles to like 80. I mean, that's phenomenal in a first round competition game in a World Cup. So, they're going to be pretty handy too. If they get the offense moving, we know they're very good defensively. So, yeah, great game. Fiji Wallabies game is going to be fascinating this week.
Yeah, I again watched those highlights back this morning, and I still can't believe that last pass. 3-on-2, just put it through the hands, mate. Tough for Semi to drop that with an open line. Good game though. All right, let's move on to this week's games. We're going to preview a few of them. A couple of them we're not really going to look at. This week, it's all very, very one-sided, Paul. Before we get into the games, is there any big bets Any money coming in anywhere that we need to let the punters know about?
I've had a quick look, and it's early on, and there weren't a number of teams having named their starting 15s as we go to air. So turnover is quiet at the moment. Obviously, most punters waiting for those teams to be named. But I had a look at the All Blacks Namibia, 62% of turnover on the point start, which when I had a look at it was 72.5.
72.5, yep.
62% of turnover was on the All Blacks minus 72.5. Samoa, Chile, 88% of turnover is on the Samoans minus 33.5. So pretty much one-way traffic in terms of action in that game. The Irish and the Tongans, 56% of turnover in the winning team and margin book is on the Irish to win by 1 to 12.
Ooh.
$7.50 last time I looked, $7.50 for Ireland to win 1 to 12. Australia, Fiji, 59% of turnover is on the Fijians in the match result market at $3.50. So they haven't lost any of their supporters, it seems. And they're looking to make a wee bit of money back after that loss first round up against the Welsh. And then England, Japan, 44% of turnover in the winning team and margin market is on England to win by 1 to 12, paying $3.50.
Interesting. Let's start with New Zealand v Namibia. And the team was named 9 changes. Cam Roigard comes into halfback, Mackenzie to 10. We've got Havili and Anton Leonard-Brown in the midfield. Any surprises or anything you weren't expecting?
No, I mean, barring Sam Cane and Geordie Barrett still not being available for this particular game, I mean, if you go through the group, really strong front row, a massively experienced middle row with Whitelock and Metallic. And, you know, the loose forwards also make up a pretty good group. But the key matchups for me are the combination of Roigard and McKenzie. Probably haven't played a lot of rugby together, but both at the top of their games right now. We're still searching for a midfield. If Geordie doesn't play too much in this tournament, so Havili and Leonard-Brown a really good opportunity for them to sort of cement a complementary partnership. Power wingers with Clark and Whanganuku, and obviously Bodie Barrett, they're still persisting with him as a fullback and not anywhere else. So, you know, you can kind of see how they've shaped up that back line, the profile, and it's a very big forward pack. So, I guess it's a good group for this particular match.
It's not often, Paul, that we see for a game like this, New Zealand versus, you know, an absolute minnow. We've got 4 or 5 guys in there that have more than 100 caps for New Zealand. It's a lot of experience.
And one at the other end, Cam Roigard, who just sort of starting his international career. And to be fair, he was one of the bright spots in that Twickenham match against the Springboks just before the World Cup kicked off. So I'd be very interested to see how he goes. Obviously, against the opposition that they're facing, he shouldn't have too much of a hard time, but it'll be an opportunity for him and Mackenzie to form a wee bit of a combination and just give the selectors another sort of, I guess, thought to ponder. I don't see Smith getting overtaken in terms of number one halfback, but if bad things happen,
Don't say it.
Okay, but it's good that we've got someone like a Roigard who he actually looks like a very confident player, and
halfbacks have to be, don't they?
Well, yeah. Once again, I've never met one that wasn't.
He's had a great year, hasn't he? I mean, he's in a sort of Hollywood period at an international level. So, I mean, as the years go on, I'm sure he'll be around the team and people will analyse him. What I would really like him to do, though, is not to overplay his hand in this game. I mean, he's going to be behind a Rolls-Royce platform. and he's very good at challenging the edges. He's a physical halfback, complements what Smith brings. They're different profiles, aren't they? But he's just got to make sure he gets McKenzie running with his clearance, and then of course just take those opportunities when they present. So just more a balanced game from him would be really good.
Yeah, I really like the look of this. The back line. It's a strong midfield. The wings, I think Lester Whanganuku could have an absolute field day out wide this week. We, as Paul said earlier, we are recording on Thursday morning, so the try scoring markets aren't up yet. But I'll be looking for Lester to get more than a couple of tries this week. As you said, Paul, 72.5 points the All Blacks are favoured by. So for any newbies out there, if you don't understand the point start line, that means if you think the All Blacks will win by 73 or more, take the over. If you think they'll win by 72 or less, take the under. Where are you kind of leaning?
Oh, I'm taking the plus 72.5.
Plus 72.5.
I think the bookies have just been a wee bit generous here. Look, the All Blacks are going to run away with this game. I've got no problems with that. Look, they've just struggled to. I know we were talking about, what was it, the 147-point game earlier. That was back in 1995. The last couple of World Cups, I think it's a combination of World Rugby. I guess the lower tier teams improving. They've lifted. And I think it's been harder for teams to be put away like that. I know we saw Ireland put 80 odd points on in the first round. I think that the Namibians can keep this a wee bit closer than 72.5.
Italy put 52 on them.
I respect the Italians. I think they're very, very good. And I know you look at that and you think, hold on a minute, Italy. So if we take the All Blacks now, so yeah, they could score another 20. Just like
it's exactly what I did earlier.
See, there you go. Italy are a very, very good team now, and I think it's going to take a bit. And I think the All Blacks are going to be looking to get through this game without any injuries, and maybe discipline as well. Although, as Ant said, he said teams actually train to have 14 or 13, just in case something goes wrong. I'd get the All Blacks to commit a couple of deliberate offsides or something and get someone sent for 10 minutes just so they could practice their game with only 40 men on the field.
Didn't we play a game in the last couple of years where we did that, Ant? Was it Samoa? In Samoa, perhaps, when we were up by 80 or 90 and we took a couple of guys off, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, there's no secret that when they train during a week, when you get to your team-based work, which is a lot of contact work now, and obviously when you're doing your attack and defence, they will just pull a person off for 8 minutes, and then they'll pull another one off, and then, you're there defending with 13 or whatever. So they're well-versed in playing without men. I don't disagree that it's always good to practice that, but this test for me, honestly, is just a single test in one moment. And I just think they need to make sure they manufacture what they need through the course of 80 minutes. They'll be hard. They'll come at them initially, the opposition. You've got to combat that, I suppose, and then just got to get your attack and your defense going. It's as simple as that, because it's about implementing plans. It's about executing, and it's about individual performances. So, I think, they'll play well. It probably will be a fairly big score, but they'll have to earn the right initially in the game to get to that point. I think you got to still do the work.
Do you think the All Blacks can win by 73 or more?
Yes, I do. They'll be hurting, I think, after the French loss. And it's a nice mix. We've all three of us have discussed the makeup of this group with the experience that's been retained, but also the other players who are on form. They'll be excited about contributing for the first time at this tournament. And I think, if they're patient and, their game drivers map them around the field successfully, it could be a big score.
Nice. I was a little bit surprised Ethan Blackadder didn't come straight off the plane and straight into this team. just to get some minutes under his belt.
Maybe that's it. Straight off the plane, just give them because now they've got, after this game, they got about 12 days till their next match.
Yeah.
So it gives them plenty of time to work his way in on the training field, and I'm sure we'll see him starting next test.
Yeah. All right. Samoa v Chile. As you said, Samoans are 33.5-point favourites. First time we see Samoa in the tournament, and first time since their near upset of Ireland the other week. No team yet. Paul, is 33.5 points enough?
Look, it's very hard to judge without seeing the team's name, but I think this is one where the Samoans could start to run right. The Chileans, I thought, did for their first World Cup. I guess this is it's obviously a new experience for the whole team, and they'll take a hell of a lot of experience out of it. So, having said that, I think the Samoans will absolutely shock the Chileans with their very, very physical game. And I think in the second half, we could see this one open up big time. So, I do like the Samoans minus the points.
Yep.
Got to think.
I totally agree with Paul because, they've had a little bit of extra time to adjust to the climactic conditions in France, which have been difficult. They've sat back and watched all the other teams play in round one. They're a massively physical team, as Paul's just said, and they'll be really excited about making a statement in this first game. Second in the Pacific Nations Cup, just behind Fiji. So they played some good football through that preparation tournament. Yeah, they could really blow this Chilean team out of the water.
You've got to think that they should give themselves a decent crack at getting out of this pool, and to do that, they're going to have to roll their first team out almost every week, in sort of some capacity. So I think, that with Lima Sopolonga at the helm at 10, sort of guiding them around the park, I definitely agree with you guys. Could be a big score. Next one, Ireland v Tonga. Ireland 35.5-point favourites over Tonga. Not really sure what to make of the Tongans. And they've got a good team on paper. They beat Canada twice, but they lost to Samoa, got a hiding by Samoa. Like, where do you think they sit right now?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because we haven't seen a lot of what they've done leading in. I mean, they were last in the Pacific Nations Cup, which was probably for a number of different reasons. But again, when these Pacifica teams get to World Cup, they tend to always be at their very best. And so, this is a tough first round game for them against the Irish, who definitely are one of the favourites in the competition. So maybe they've got to match up physically or dominate physically, and then obviously they're going to have to try and do something that's going to unsettle, maybe a little unorthodox to unsettle the Irish. But I think this Irish team is a real good one. So this is a tough matchup for them first up.
Does Ireland having played a game benefit either team either way?
Once again, it comes down to who they select. They may select a completely different team from the one that ran out in week one, which really doesn't favour them or disadvantage them either way. So it's a game that, once again, I'll wait for the teams to be named and then have it. But I won't be going hard in this game. It's very, very hard to pick. Ireland currently fourth favourite with us to win the Rugby World Cup at $5.75. Okay.
Next one, probably the game of the round. We've already mentioned it. Australia versus Fiji. Australia, $1.30 favourites. Fiji, $3.50. If you fancy the draw, you get $21 for that. 8.5-point favourites, the Australians. Can Fiji win?
I think the simple answer is yes. What I tend to reflect on, and probably more with my head than my heart here, is Australia are really well versed and well performed at World Cups. Eddie Jones, he's been a sticky mongrel for about a year and a half now for most of us, but he just knows how to get the job done, and that was a big opening round win for them against a very physical Georgian team. They would have scripted how to beat this Fijian team as well. So I kind of had them in that 1 to 12 area, which is your 8.5 you mentioned before. But if the Fijians haven't been dented too much with the disappointing loss against Wales. They are a team that can beat Australia on their day, but they have to have most things go their way, I think, for that to happen.
Paul, I know you're a big fan of the Fijians and what they can do. Do you give them a chance?
I do. I just think the Wallabies are just going to have just a wee bit too much class here. I was really impressed with the way they started the tournament. Look, if Fiji get up early and then they get a bit of a momentum going, they'll be very, very hard to peg back. But I think this Wallabies side will just sort of go from set piece to set piece early on in the game, get a wee bit of, I guess, a formation going. I think it'll be a fairly close. So I don't mind the look of the Wallabies 1-12 at 250.
Yeah, I think if the Wallabies want to win, they need to shore up their defensive line first and foremost this week. I think, and you mentioned that the Fijians, their set piece is so much better than where it has been in the past, and that ability, they've got that ability now to play structured with the flair. It's completely changed the way they go about things and the way they play. So looking forward to this one. That 350 looks juicy. I like it. I'm happy to go again. I think there's going to be a big upset in this tournament. Why not this week? Last one, England, Japan. I have not written down who is favourite and by how many. Paul, can you help me out here?
I'll give you the tip. It's not Japan.
Well, the punters are backing them to keep it close.
Yeah, they are. At the moment, England in the match result market are $1.06. The Japanese $8. The draws at $31. Best backed in the winning team in margin selection, as I said earlier, England by 1-12, still at $3.50, and England are 20.5-point favourites.
Where's your mind at here, Ant?
This is an intriguing encounter for me because this is where you got a classic matchup of structure, conservative structure versus tempo. And we know how the Japanese play. They play a fast game. They move the ball around a lot. And if they can compete at set piece, scrum and line out particularly, kickoff obviously, that will be absolutely massive to them, as our school bell goes too, by the way, gentlemen. Probably apologies for that. If they can compete in that phase of the game, then, they can actually move this relatively big English team around. But if England play like they have done, and we saw that the other day against the Argentinians with real structure and keep sort of turning them around and suffocating them, then, it'll be another win for England by quite a few potentially. So tempo v structure. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure on this game either. I'll pass.
Look, I'm going to side slightly with the Poms here, minus 20.5. If Super Rugby has been a great vehicle for the Drua and helping Fiji lift their game internationally, the fact that the Sunwolves are no longer in Super Rugby has had the opposite effect on the Japanese. I think we really saw their game lift when the Sunwolves, even though the Sunwolves struggled at times, the sort of week in, week out top competition that they got there, I think helped lift the performance of the Japanese international team. So now that they're not there, I think we're just seeing them sort of drop away a wee bit, and I think England could put a few points on them here. So yeah, I'm just slightly favouring England minus 20.5.
All righty. The other games that we are not going to talk about, France versus Uruguay, Wales, Portugal, and South Africa, Romania. Right. My favourite part of the podcast.
I just want to mention, because it's funny that we've got Ants drawn on, and the South Africans have named 4 halfbacks in their team to take on Romania. 4 halfbacks. They've got Kobus Reinach, was it Grant Williams on the wing, and then on the bench they've got Jaden Hendricks and Faf de Klerk. So 4 halfbacks in one match for the South Africa.
Mate, look, I tell you, the answer, Rassie Erasmus for president, mate. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, no, I'll one-up you there. I think Sia Khaleesi will be a future South African leader, because boy, oh boy, is he a brilliant leader? I saw a press conference where they asked about the, I guess, the poor goal kicking from one of the South Africans, and he jumped in there, and his response was absolutely brilliant. He is a fantastic leader. I really like the look of the South Africans. We know what their team will look like when they get to the big games. They'll have 6 or 7 big forwards on the bench. So that it'll just be relentless. I love the look of this South African team, and I think they can go. I think they can win the whole lot, and they're currently second favourites with us at the moment, behind the hometown heroes, the French.
Interesting. 4 halfbacks.
4 halfbacks.
Okay. Right now, the favourite part of the show for me: start, bench, cut. As always, I provide you guys with 3 names. And I want you to start one, bench one, cut one. This week with our guest Ant, as I said earlier, Harbour, great. We've got going a little bit differently. We've done just positional players the last couple of weeks. These 3 guys this week, all different positions for the most part, but they all played for Harbour, and they're all probably teammates. And so I hope they're listening. And I hope they come after you decide who to cut. Your players this week: Walter Little, Frank Bunce, and Eric Rush. Start one, bench one, cut one, please, Ant.
Wow. That's a tough question.
Who lives the furthest from you?
Look, I'd probably have to start Frank Bunce. Unbelievably physical player, relentless, highly competitive, a guy that can turn a game with the ball and without the ball. So he's my start. I'd probably say Walter off the bench, because he covers a few spots. Used to play 12, 10, 12, 13. You could chuck him at the back as well. And Rushy's too busy with Northland, and he earns too much money, so he can be cut for a little while.
Paul?
We're singing off the same hymn sheet here. I think you have to start Buncey. At times he looked like he was just gliding through games. Like he didn't look like he was trying, but he was like doing amazing things. So, I think you start him. And once again, because of Little's versatility, he could play 10 at a pinch, 12, 13, and probably 15 if you needed. So his versatility gets him on the bench, which means that Rushy gets cut. He was probably at the Hong Kong Sevens anyway at the time. So
he can run your aftermatch because he's funny as a fight. I tell you, we've all heard his speeches. So, mate, we'll just tell him, hey, mate, look, just for this week, you're running the aftermatch speeches.
Did score 3 tries in that game against Japan, I'll note. But
that's too many, so he's had enough.
I agree with you guys, but that's good. All right, next one, Controversy Corner. I came across an article this week, and I had a good laugh about it, actually. For the first time in Rugby World Cup history, the referees, our timekeepers, are not wearing watches. And the reason being, Tudor, who is the tournament sponsor, are a little bit pissy that a former, now retired referee sold his beautiful Tudor watch that was given to him after the 2019 Rugby World Cup.
So referees used to get watches given to them by the watch sponsor.
Yep. Someone sold it to make some cash.
And now the sponsor has gone, we're not giving you watches anymore. You can buy them.
Not only that, we're not giving them to you, but if you want to wear one during the game, you have to source your own Tudor watch or a Garmin watch, as they, for some reason, that they don't see Garmin as a competitor. The referees all got together and decided, nah, stuff you, we're not going to wear one. And is this one of the most ridiculous things you've ever heard?
Yeah, well, there's 2 sides to the argument always. I mean, it does present it a bit as ridiculous. I mean, even if you talk about not providing watches because they're going to on-sell them afterwards, or when you on-sell them and get a good price for them, it keeps the brand name at a premium. So I mean, that's ridiculous from a marketing perspective, I would have thought. But the other thing too is, that the referees have collectively said no. I think that's a good thing. The power of numbers. So that's what they've decided to do. Mate, it should be just fish and chip paper tomorrow, shouldn't it? Because honestly, it's a bit of a silly argument. But yeah, as I say, I think the referees have done the right thing here.
It's interesting that the refs are now one of us. They've got to rely on the scoreboard, on the hooter, on the TMO pool for time limits. I don't know about you, but there's nothing worse when I was playing asking the ref how long to go when you're sucking in the big ones.
Yeah. Now he's asking the players.
Anything to add here?
No, I agree with Ant here. That this is a positive thing for the actual brand. The fact that a referee went on, auctioned it or whatever, sold it, it drives the. Well, anyway.
I'll tell you what, that guy Carly that refereed the Welsh Fijian game, mate. I'll tell you what, he runs his own cutter anyway. Does he? I don't think he uses anything. He runs everything. He's the boss of everything.
Let's leave that there before we get in trouble with the referees.
Oh, it's all right, mate. I'll take it on the chin. Don't worry.
All right, that is Controversy Corner. Let's get to wrapping up the show. We'll get to some betting. Paul, should we have a look back at last week? I can start with our guest last week, Steve Devine. He was all in on Georgia head-to-head at $10 with his $100. Did not come off, unfortunately. So guests are sitting at $0.
Or minus.
Minus.
Yeah.
I've got. I didn't bring mine. I know my winning bet.
No, hold on a minute.
Two losing bets and a winning bet.
So hold on a minute. Last week you said, right, okay, I'm going to have a bet on Fiji, I think, to win by 13 and over. No, that didn't happen. You had a 3-leg multi. No, that didn't come in. And then you said, and it's recorded, it's on tape. You said, I'd like South Africa to win by 11 to 12.
11 to 20.
Hold on a minute. On tape, you said South Africa to win by 11 to 12. Now, they did not win by 11 to 12.
On my piece of paper, I've got written 11 to 20.
You've got to check your bet slips, don't you?
I've got to get benefit of the doubt here. There's not even an option for 11 to 12 at $3.30.
I think we should put it out to our podcast listeners, and they can decide whether you get a tick or a cross, because last week on tape you said South Africa to win by 11 to 12. I'm just saying that's what you said. We'll leave it up to our potties out there. If we get more votes that say yes, it's okay, you get a win, I'll tick it off. If not, no win. And I had no wins.
So that's why this is
debacle,
because I had the only winning bet.
We've got to be fair. It's all about fairness.
Disaster. $30 on South Africa, 11 to 20 at $3.30 I had. So I almost made my money back, my $100.
11 to 12.
All right. This week, and as I said earlier, before we press record, we're going to get $100 each to bet on anything you like this week in terms of Rugby World Cup action.
A mythical 100.
A mythical 100. We'll
so
keep
Ant's
track.
Getting a mythical 100 as well to have a go this week on the Rugby World Cup.
Yep.
Right.
And as I said, the guests are not doing well, so
lift.
The only way is up.
Lift.
Where are you going with your
no pressure, gentlemen. I'm going to have a little multi going on here. I reckon England 13 plus might not be too many, but we'll chuck them in first. Australia, here's a go, 13 plus against Fiji, and then the Samoans to win by truckloads. What were the odds on them? Like the point start or whatever?
That was minus 32 or 33.5 last time I looked.
Yeah, let's go with that. Those three together, what does that give us?
Minus 33.5. So what is that? Oh, you had the Wallabies
13 plus
and over.
13 plus.
Okay.
I'm nearly there. Horatio.
Australia 13 and over. There we go. That comes out to $5.68.
Woo!
England 13 and over. Wallabies 13 and over. Samoa minus 33.5. $100. $5.68. you could go straight to the top of the leaderboard with that.
Go you good thing, as they say.
Just writing that down. Done. Nice. Paul, you want to give us your bets for the week?
Yep, I'm having one bet this week, a single. I want to get on the board. I'm taking the French minus 56.5 against Namibia. $100 goes on at $1.87. I think just at home, this French team, and they showed it in that first game, and the crowd will be behind them. They want to really, really take the country on a journey with them here. Oh, I hate saying that word, a journey. But take them on a ride. Take them on a ride here, and the best way to do that is to score a whole lot of tries, and I think they'll do that against Namibia. So France minus 56.5 at $1.87. The whole hundy goes on.
Uruguay, not Namibia.
Oh, sorry, Uruguay. Sorry.
All right, easy. I've got 2 plays. I've got a wee 3-leg multi. France minus 56.5. New Zealand minus 72.5, and Samoa minus 33.5. $30 on that at $6.53. And then I reckon I've found an absolute gem. An absolute gem. Listen up, punters.
Oh, boy.
In the
Brace yourself, Paul. Here it comes.
Try Australia to win by 11-12.
No. Don't. There's no need to be like that. Australia versus Fiji. If you scroll down on the first page of betting and you go to away total tries, the away team is
Fiji.
They are listed second here. Over 2.5 tries, paying $2.05. I think the Fijians can score 3 tries quite comfortably. And they got 3 last week. They got plenty.
Probably should have had another 2 or 3 more as well.
Yeah, $2.05. I'm going to put $70 on that to round out my $100. I think that is a very good bet.
Don't forget to bet safely, eh?
Bet safely.
Yeah.
Promos. What do we got?
We've still got that first try scorer promotion for punters. So just place a pre-match first try scorer bet. And if your player doesn't score the first try, but scores the second, third, or fourth try in the match, we'll refund your bet up to $50 as a bonus bet. So I think the French Uruguayan first try scorer market will be, if you're listening on, Thursday today. If you're listening later on Thursday afternoon, I'm pretty sure that first try scorer market for the French Uruguayan game will be out.
Very nice. Definitely a game, that game and the New Zealand game. One where you can you should get some good value for it. If you're going to pick a first try scorer in the New Zealand game, who are you taking?
Leicester Whanganuku.
I agree. I like that. Another one for new punters. If you haven't got a TAB account, join the TAB today. Deposit $10 and you will get $10 bonus bets. It's $100 in bonus bets to use on anything you like. So head to tab.co.nz or download the app to do so now. As Paul said earlier, if you are going to have a punt, please do so safely and stay within your means.
Can I ask Ant a question? Because he would have been part of a number of Battle of the Bridges. Which player did he hate the most from Auckland? And just on the field, afterwards, yeah, can be mates. But on the field, who did you really hate when you had those Battle of the Bridges?
I wasn't a hate personally, obviously, but just a hate.
Oh, no, okay.
On the field, but yeah, Zinzan Brook was just a pain in the ass. In every possible way. He was so competitive, so talented. It just never gave an inch. Even if you're beating him, he's still coming at you. So, amazing player. And obviously synonymous with so many of those Auckland victories over the years. But, he's the one for sure.
You better keep an eye, sleep with one eye open, mate. You got Zinzan and Rushy coming after you now.
Hey, buddy, I'll get a text message this afternoon, so, man, I'll be in trouble for sure.
That's great. All right, guys, we will leave it there. Paul, thank you for joining me again.
It's been great. Yeah. Always good to talk to two halfbacks.
Please.
That's when you can get a word in edgeways, mate.
And thank you very much for joining the Pick and Go Rugby podcast today. Really appreciate your time and all your insights and the little nugget of gold around Mark Ellis and flipping the bird. So thank you, mate.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, gentlemen. Nice work.
He'll be spending the rest of the afternoon looking for footage of that. And
I will.
yeah.
We'll see if we can share it.
It's very,
right.
really hard to see, I must say, but I was right next to him, so I certainly saw it.
That's great. To all the listeners and punters out there, thank you very much for joining us. And we will be back next week to do it all again on the Pick and Go Rugby podcast. Cheers.